What's going on, folks? Curtis Wilkerson with HawgSports.com coming to you today with another episode, a jam-packed episode of Hog Hoops Live. The Razorbacks are 7-0. They're top 10 in the country. Some of you are pumped. Some of you are concerned by what you've seen so far. I get it. We're going to talk about it. We'll break down last night's win over UCA. We'll preview the upcoming schedule, take a dive into what we've seen from the Hogs so far, and maybe take an early look at what appears to be a loaded SEC. All that and more coming your way today on Hog Hoops Live. All right. Here we go. It's been a little while. We had the episode there at the beginning of the season, and then I was on the road, came to you with some live reaction from Kansas City. I love doing that. That was a really awesome event. Before we get started with the show today, I obviously want to remind you of all the ways to watch and listen. You can follow along with us live on our Facebook page. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube page, remember Hog Hoops Live has its own YouTube page, so very important. Would really appreciate it if you hop on there and throw a subscription in. If you like to listen to the podcast, we're everywhere. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher. You can find Hog Hoops Live at the same place you find Trey's show, HawgSports Live. And honestly, if you're following along live right now and you haven't already subscribed with us at HawgSports.com, you need to consider it strongly. Now's a really good time to do it. Not only is basketball season really starting to heat up, we're on bowl watch for Arkansas football. It's college football portal season. I mean, my man Danny West right now, he probably won't sleep until Christmas, but you're going to love staying up to date with everything that he's dropping. A lot of good nuggets there. It's a good time to join us. Make sure that you do hop in and throw your questions and comments in the chat. Anything basketball related. Heck, I'll answer football questions if they're bowl related or Sam Pittman related or Nate Perotti related, because that's my boy. All right. Let's get started here. Let's talk about this UCA game a little bit. Let me just begin by maybe pointing out that UCA is, look, they're one of the worst Division I college basketball teams in the country. I mean, it just is what it is. That's not being a hater. I actually really enjoy following those in-state schools. They're just not very good, right? Sorry. They came in 1-6. They kind of had their doors blown off by several teams. Look, Arkansas wins that game 97-60. It's the most points scored by the Razorbacks this season. That's good. The largest margin of victory in a game this season. All 13 guys played, including the walk-on. 11 guys score for the Razorbacks. That's great. The Arkansas did exactly what they needed to do, I think, in that game. I did mention at the top of the show that, maybe some folks just aren't quite sure about this team just yet. Maybe they're not sold on the high ranking, the 7-0 start. Like I said, I get it. But here's the deal. Right now, Arkansas is one of 14 teams in the country that's still unbeaten. They earned that preseason ranking, that high preseason ranking, based on last year's success, compared with, the talent on paper that they have coming in this year. That's kind of how it works with those preseason rankings. It's justified. And, really, to me, Arkansas also hasn't done anything to drop. Right? They've won all 5 home games so far by double digits. They've won both neutral site games against good teams to pad the resume a little bit. Where they are right now, I believe, is warranted. And that's okay. And it's also okay and completely fair, I think, to just kind of simply sit back and watch several of these games early on and see that this isn't a group that has it all figured out yet. They'll get there. I don't think there should be any concern to that regard, but we haven't seen a full 40 minutes of good, vintage Arkansas Eric Musselman basketball just yet. And really, one of the issues has been kind of playing down to the competition, I think. Just maybe letting teams who shouldn't hang around. We saw that a little bit last night, as Arkansas only led UCA by 6 at halftime, 41-35, I believe it was. Going through the motions offensively, a little careless, a little casual at times, not guarding the three-point line. As really a terrible shooting team, and UCA goes 7 of 10 from 3 in your gym in the first half. It's not good. Wasn't really good. But you know what? What happened? Musk gave him an epic, probably butt chewing, a well deserved butt chewing at halftime. They come out, they outscore UCA by 31 in the second half, and they looked the part. They passed the eye test, I think, for that full 20 minutes of the second half. Some good things from that game, Arkansas shot almost 55% from the field. That's really good. They outscored UCA 60-16 in points in the paint. 16 steals and 25 forced turnovers. Defense fueling the offense. They were plus 16 in rebounds, 22 assists, which is a really good number, to just 12 turnovers. Those are all elite level type numbers. That's what you want to see from this team. Some of the not so good, 13 of 26, 50% free throws. Come on. That's got to be better. It's got to be. 4 of 18 from the three-point line. Now, listen, this is a problem in my estimation, and it's not a small sample size anymore. I mean, 9 games now, if you include the 2 exhibitions, and Arkansas shooting 51 of 180 from 3. That's 28.3%. It's 5.6 makes per game. Both of those are very, very low. And look, I don't think this group is as bad as it's shooting right now. I also don't think that they're going to suddenly be a lethal three-point shooting team out there. There are a few ways to improve it, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but it's kind of one of those glaring areas right now that you have a little bit of concern about. A few notes on players from last night to wrap up the UCA talk. Stanley Umude led the way with 17 points. I do player grades after every one of these games. I really enjoy doing that feature. I had Umude as my MVP, and the reason I did, it wasn't just because he led the way with 17 points, but he had 15 of those 17 in the first half. When Arkansas was kind of sleepwalking a little bit, he was the guy that really brought it. They kept going down to him in the post. He's got that little, that turnaround little fader in there. It's a really tough shot. He hit another 3. He's active around the rim. He kind of carried them offensively there, and he had 5 offensive boards on the game. I think it's huge to get Stanley Umude going. He's such a talented player, gifted offensively, and if he's clicking, it kind of adds a new dimension to the Razorbacks. And that's 2 games in a row now where I thought he's been really good offensively. He's improving as a defender. I do think that it's a matter of time. And listen, this is not a knock at all on Connor Vanover, because I like him and Jalen Williams on the floor together. I didn't necessarily think I would, but especially offensively, they got to work out the defensive matchups there. But offensively, the ball moves a lot better with those guys in there. But I do think at some point we'll see Stanley Umude back in that starting rotation. Hey, he's doing great off the bench right now. I think he's one of your 5 best players. I think eventually he'll be in there when you start playing these more athletic, up and down type teams that you're going to see in SEC play. Devo Davis, hey, he was my pick to click for the game. The guy that I thought might have a breakout performance. I thought, probably the first 10 to 12 minutes, he looked a little lost out there. Kind of what we've seen so far this year, just a little bit uncomfortable, a little unsure. But I think from that point on, we finally got that vintage Devo game that we've all kind of been waiting for. Right? 16 points. I think he was 6 of 9 from the field, 6 rebounds. He was really attacking the rim with purpose. He's got that herky-jerky dribble, and he's just long, crafty with that left hand, was getting to the basket, was diving hard on basket cuts and scoring. Those are the things that you like to see from Devo that we haven't seen so far. His defense has been there. He's been a menace defensively all season. I'm talking more on the offensive end. He's kind of been making that transition to the point guard position. And I think he's been maybe overthinking a little bit. Like, okay, I'm the point guard now. I'm supposed to be distributing. You know what? I should pass up this good mid-range shot or the opportunity to get to the rim and see if I can hit a guy with a pass. And I thought he was thinking a little bit less last night against UCA, for one, and two, and he mentioned it, Eric Musselman mentioned it after the game, he's just having fun again. I think part of that comes with not thinking so much, but just having fun. He's a passionate guy, and had a little bit of that swagger back about him. He just appeared to be enjoying himself out there on the floor, and he's a better player when he does it. More good Devo means more good Arkansas. So that's a very good sign, very promising sign. Au'Diese Toney, I thought it was really interesting. He got benched in the first half. I guess Muss didn't like what he was seeing. It was crazy. The first half was weird, just very uneven. I said it earlier, kind of sloppy performance there from Arkansas. And, quite honestly, it was probably, like 3 minutes until halftime. I look on the floor, I look over at the stat broadcast, and I go, where the hell is Au'Diese Toney? Where's he at? I feel like I hadn't seen him in a long time. Turns out he just wasn't really bringing it in the first half. At halftime, Musselman said, hey, man, I'm giving you about a minute and a half to go out there and show me you got it tonight, that you're going to bring it. And he goes out there in the second half. He goes 6 of 6 from the field. He scores 14 of his 16 points. He was a madman. I think he scored 9 in a row at one point when Arkansas really started to gain that separation that put the game out of reach. Looked really good. He was challenged. He accepted the challenge. Jalen Williams, man, 8 points, a career high, 13 rebounds, which is awesome. He just continues to be such an unselfish player for this team, impacting the game in so many ways besides scoring. But this is getting crazy. Like, can we get the man a double-double, please? Can we just do that? I mean, how many times has he come up one basket short? I can think of 3 or 4 off the top of my head. I know they monitor that stuff. And you've got 24 staffers there on the bench. The next time Jalen Williams needs one more bucket to get a double-double, run a set to get him a post-up every possession until he gets it. The man has earned it. Get my man a double-double. Great game, though. Great game. JD Note, I thought it was a little bit of an underrated night. 10 points on 10 shots. Game high 6 assists. He had 3 steals, a few turnovers. The thing about him, guys just don't want to bring the ball up against him. The way he defends right now is just high level on ball. I thought he looked pretty good. Chris Likes didn't shoot it well from outside. Arkansas needs to get him going. Him and Note from 3. Note did hit 1. I think he was 1 of 4 on the game. But with Chris Likes, he was 3 of 7 from the floor, so not taking a ton of shots, but 0 of 4 from 3. This is a guy that hits about 53s a year throughout his career, 35+%. You need that from him. And Arkansas's not shooting it well from 3 right now, and they're 2, most high volume and decent percentage shooters in Note and Likes haven't really been cashing in. You got to have those 2 guys knocking them down, even if it's going to be streaky. It's been an extended cold streak for both of them, so hopefully they get it going. But what I did like about Chris Likes, 5 assists and 0 turnovers. So he was passing up. Sometimes he'll take those contested mid-ranges or, really try to go in there and mix it up against some big guys inside. He was sacrificing some shots and hitting guys. He had a really nice just no-look drop-off pass to Devo for a layup. I thought it was one of the plays of the game. But 5 assists, 0 turnovers, hey, you'll take that from your 6th man. And then the last guy I want to mention, we'll move on from UCA, Jackson Robinson, who I think could be a key to turning this shooting issue around for Arkansas. He got 15 minutes of action, 7 points, 3 of 6 from the field. He got loose in transition a couple times. He had a big dunk. I like to see that from Jackson. Okay, buddy, throw one down. That was cool, right? 1 of 3 from 3. He did knock one down. Arkansas hit a little spurt there where they hit back-to-back-to-back threes. Jackson knocked down one of those. To me, he's just the one guy on this team with length who doesn't need to be ball dominant, who can spot up in the corner and knock down catch and shoot threes, spread the defense, space them out. I think Jax can be that guy for you. And if you can find him 10 to 15 minutes per game like you did last night and get comfortable with him and he follows the schemes defensively, he's not going to hurt you there. But if he gets a little bit more confident as a ball handler, a little bit more of a killer instinct, I think he can really help this team out with spacing and obviously knocking down some perimeter shots, which they need. So, not bad. 37-point win, you'll take it. Looking ahead a little bit at the schedule, Little Rock coming to town, so back-to-back in-state games. That's cool. Little Rock coming to town Saturday, 3 p.m. That game is on SEC Network. Darrell Walker, he's going to bring a tough bunch in here. They're always hard-nosed. We know that. They're 4-4 on the season, a little banged up too, so I'm not entirely sure just yet if they're going to be full strength. They were missing a couple key players last night. Listen to this stretch for the Trojans. This is crazy. I saw this actually on their website, but when Little Rock comes to Fayetteville on Saturday, it will be wrapping up a 6-game, 5-state, 4-time zone road swing. That's brutal. 6 games, 5 states, 4-time zone road swing. They got blasted at Colorado State on Wednesday, but listen, we talked about Arkansas. They're one of 14 remaining undefeated teams. Colorado State's also one of those. They're good. Fort Collins is a tough place to play. Ask Chad Morris. At any rate, the Hogs are heavily favored, over Little Rock. KenPom projects Arkansas to have a 27-point win, 99% odds to win. Hopefully, they can build off of that second half performance against UCA, maybe put together a full 40 minutes. From there, Arkansas will wrap the homestand December 7th. That's a Tuesday versus what I think is a pretty interesting Charlotte team with a lot of high major transfers. They're 3-3. And then you get the largest test of the non-conference on December 11th in Tulsa against Oklahoma, who they beat the Florida Gators last night in Norman. So kind of an upstart team there under Porter Moser, the first-year head coach. Obviously did some really good things at Loyola Chicago, but so far it seems like it's translating pretty well there at Oklahoma. That's a big win for them against Florida. I know they've got another couple pretty important games coming up, but the possibility is there for this to be a top 25 matchup in Tulsa on December 11th, which would be huge, in my opinion. I don't want to dive too deep into it because we'll have another show before then to really do that, but if Arkansas could add that, a top 25 matchup to the resume in the non-conference, that'd be very good for them. Because if you look at it, they round out the preseason, the pre-SEC slate, if you will. From there with, they play Hofstra in North Little Rock, Elon at home. Listen, it's not the most daunting non-conference schedule in the world. I do think they have those games that'll look better in March than they do now, like Mercer, Northern Iowa. I think Charlotte and Hofstra could eventually both fall into those categories. We didn't think much of, Oral Roberts and Abilene Christian, North Texas last year, and those teams wound up being really good. I think we'll have a couple of those this season. That's just the way, Anthony Ruda and Musselman's schedule. But in terms of those marquee games, that Oklahoma one could be really, really important. Obviously, 2 nice neutral site wins over Kansas State and Cincinnati already. I think Cincinnati's an NCAA tournament team, by the way. They've struggled a little bit since they played Arkansas. That's the Arkansas effect. You get beat up when you play the Hogs, right? I thought they were pretty good. It's a good team. And, really, too, it's just about stacking wins. It's interesting. It's a little bit of a different philosophy for Arkansas coming into this year because they came into the season so highly ranked. They didn't last year, right? So Arkansas really had to, prove themselves, I guess you could say. Well, they kind of came into this season getting the benefit of the doubt, right? So they really just have to take care of business early, and that includes early in the SEC slate. I talked about the SEC being really tough, but I think the schedule is backloaded for Arkansas. I mean, if you look at the January games in SEC play, there's a chance for the Razorbacks to get off to a pretty darn good start, especially if they hit their stride between now and then. But the SEC is interesting. It's going to be tough. I think Kentucky looks the part again. I know you guys will hate me for saying that, but it's true. They look pretty good so far. Florida, I think it was overly impressive early on. They lost to Oklahoma. I haven't watched that game yet. I want to go see what went down there. But they're always a talented group. Mike White's going to Mike White, but they're going to be pretty good in the regular season, I would imagine. Auburn, I believe, is very, very talented. Jabari Smith, the freshman, he's a player. Walker Kessler, they got a 7-1 guy that can run the floor. I really like the combination if Flanagan comes back healthy to go along with KD Johnson, the Georgia transfer. they're going to be a tough out. So I think Auburn's one to keep an eye on. Bama, I've watched them a few times now. I do not think they are what they were last year, but they're still very talented, and it's the style that they play that makes them scary, because if they're hitting when they're jacking up all those threes, they're a tough team to beat. They have some big matchups coming up on the docket too. Alabama's next 3 games are Gonzaga, Houston, and Memphis. So we'll learn a lot more about them over the next week or two. But, again, to go on down the list, Tennessee has a veteran group, great point guard play. They've got a nice win already this year. Mississippi State, I think, has a really good starting lineup. I'm not sure about their depth. LSU has surprised me. Undefeated, Darius Days. We know all about that guy. He's been playing at a really high level. Xavier Pinson from Missouri's over there now. So, Arkansas really could fit anywhere from the top to the bottom of that mix, depending on how they gel and how some things turn out, which I guess it kind of leads me to the last thing I wanted to talk about. Arkansas is ranked number 9 in the coaches poll, number 10 in the AP poll. They're undefeated, but I do think the general consensus is they haven't necessarily looked like a top 10 team so far. That's not a knock. I mean, one way to look at it, I guess, is, can you show me 10 other teams that have looked top 10 good so far? I don't think you can. I think a lot of people watch that Duke-Gonzaga game. I think those are 2 elite teams. Purdue, I think, has looked really, really good so far. Villanova's another. But, outside of that core group of 4 or 5, I think it's wide open right now. And for Arkansas, hey, they came in highly ranked. They haven't done anything to warrant a drop. They're learning lessons right now in wins, while other teams are learning harder lessons in defeat. So, good place to be, don't get me wrong. But, they've looked a little meh at times. It's fair. And, some of the comments from Eric Musselman I've really found fascinating, and he's 100% right. This is kind of uncharted territory for Arkansas, being the hunted instead of the hunter. And he's talked about, the pressure that comes with having that target on your back, because you're going to get everybody's best shot. And then also, and he uses this phrase, which I think is a great phrase, but he talks about the importance of backing optimism with performance. And it's true. There's so much hype around this team. There's so much excitement built around it. You've got the high ranking. You sold out Bud Walton Arena for the season. There are expectations that come with that, and there's pressure that comes with that. So, on one hand, you've got Musselman, who's trying to balance meeting those expectations with trying to take as much pressure off the guys as possible. We talked about Devo and just relaxing a little bit and having fun. That goes for a lot of guys on the team who are trying to settle into new roles. And the focus needs to be on that and enjoying the process. After that Penn game last weekend, which, again, Arkansas won by 16, great. Villanova only beat Penn by 15, I think it was last night. So, whatever, if you want to make a comp there, but they didn't play as well as Musselman hoped they would, or as probably the players hoped they would, or as I hoped they would. And Musselman was pissed after the game. And he had to go home and get in trouble from Miss Danielle, his wife, saying, "Hey, dude, you guys won. Like, what's up with the stinking thinking?" And that's why he came into the press conference after the UCA game with his Oscar the Grouch, no grouchy attitudes after the game t-shirt on, because, while you're trying to build and improve and hit your stride in these wins, you also have to remember to enjoy the moments. And sometimes we have to do that as fans. Like, I know at halftime last night, I was sitting there thinking, what the hell is going on? This is crazy. But at the same time, you're sitting there watching a top 10 undefeated team that could do something special this year. Enjoy the process, right? But then on the other hand, while he's trying to ensure that the guys are enjoying the moments and having fun and things like that, he's having to get on to folks, right? Because some people aren't doing their jobs right now, and they're not a finished product. So there's a balancing act there. There really is. I do think we're starting to see some of the roles, become a little bit more defined. There's going to be some inconsistency. That's to be expected, but I think we're reaching the point where this team should be close to hitting its stride. It should be coming here over the next stretch of games. It needs to. But if you think about it, you know, early on, the 3-point defense kind of stunk. It's improved a lot overall. You know, last night, UCA hit them for 7 of 10 in the first half, but Arkansas made an adjustment, 2 of 11 in the second half. Good. Rebounding was a question early. Now it's a strength. Assists and turnovers have been both up and down. They're trending right back in a good direction now. You know, they weren't able to put teams away maybe like they should have been, or playing down the competition, whatever, but they wound up blasting UCA last night. Good signs. The glaring weakness right now is 3-point shooting, and it does have to get figured out to a degree, because you know you can get away with that now when you can dominate a team 60-16 in the paint, but you can't expect to do that every night in the SEC. If SEC teams can just pack the paint and you don't make them pay from the outside, you become a lot easier to defend. I think they'll figure some things out. You know, Note and Likes, those guys are going to be streaky for you. If you can find some consistency with a few of those other guys. We talked about Jackson Robinson. Connor, when he's in there playing, he's 1 of 9 from 3 right now. We know he's a better shooter than that. We know Jalen can knock one down for you. Stanley Amude is starting to heat up a little bit. He's a guy that's hit, 30-plus threes in numerous seasons, shoots it at a pretty good clip. He's not going to go out there and go 8 of 9 from 3 in a game, but he can spread the floor a little bit. Tony is a guy that can really shoot it, but he's been so good as a cutter, getting to the rim and dive into the basket, that you don't want to take that strength away from him. So he's been making the ones that he shoots, but it's a lot lower volume because he's so much better just, running to the rim, backdooring guys. Something I found interesting, I kind of went back earlier in the week and just did a progress report, right, for the first month. What have we seen from Arkansas? How the eye test, matches what the voters say, what the computers and the analytics say. I'm a nerd with some of those numbers. But, like I said earlier, the AP and the coaches poll right now, they actually still have some preseason bias, right? And rightfully so. It's early, so you have to consider, where teams are as a program, how they finished last season, how they look on paper. Otherwise, you don't really have a lot to go on when you put those rankings together. So I understand that, and the computers are the same way. So, right now that top 10 ranking makes sense to me for Arkansas because, like I said, they started the season ranked high. All they've done is won, and other teams around them have lost. So I think they're right where they belong in terms of the voters. The computers have been a little bit more unkind. So I went through and looked at a few different sites that I think are reputable. You take a look at KenPom. KenPom has Arkansas ranked number 25 in the country, number 30 in adjusted offensive efficiency, number 22 in adjusted defense. KenPom projects Arkansas to finish the season 23-8 and 11-7 in the SEC. Would we take that? I wonder if would fans be happy with that? 23-8, 11-7 in the SEC. ESPN's BPI, on the other hand, they've got Arkansas ranked number 29 right now, but they have them projected to finish 21-10 and 500 in SEC play. I don't understand the algorithm with ESPN. I really don't. With the BPI, the FPI that they have for football, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it's people a lot smarter than me who are putting that stuff together, but I don't get it. For reference, the BPI has Arkansas projected to finish 500 in the SEC. They have LSU projected to win the league. I don't think that's going to happen. Shot quality, which is exactly what it sounds like. ShotQuality.com is awesome. This is a fairly new site. It really just breaks teams down and ranks them and evaluates them based on the shots that they produce and the shots that they give up. So it's really cool if you're into that kind of thing. They have Arkansas at number 36 right now. For example, Arkansas ranks number 229 in the country in overall shot selection. And it breaks down, what works for them. So, like, the top shots for this team right now is anyone cutting to the rim and getting a drop-off. Whether that be Tony or Stanley Amude or Devo. Cutters getting to the rim, layups. Great shot. Makes sense. They break it down by player. So right now, the guys who stand out, Aldis Tony and Connor Vanover, both rank in the top 10 percentile nationally in points per possession based on the shots that they take. Well, that makes sense. But you think about Tony doing all his basket cuts and offensive rebounds and putbacks. Connor's done all of his work around the rim or getting to the free throw line so far. So those are good quality shots. Kind of makes sense. Really, really cool site. But the last analytics site that I wanted to bring up is Torvik, which I think is pretty interesting. The knock on these analytics, again, they have some of that preseason bias baked in as well. The cool thing about Torvik is there's an algorithm that you can use to eliminate that. So it'll take any of that preseason bias out, and it only evaluates teams based on what we've seen from them so far in the season. Real-time performance and production with all those factors: home, road, strength of schedule, all those things, right? So under normal settings with the preseason bias, whatever, baked in there, it's interesting. It has Arkansas ranked at number 35 right now. Okay. But if you eliminate that preseason bias and just go based on that 7-game sample size, some people might think, I don't know how great they've looked at times, and they're not just blowing the doors off of some of these mid-majors. They might be a lot lower than that. Not really. They only dropped to number 38, so it's only a 3-spot drop. So what that tells me is while the eye test at times has made people think, like, damn, these guys have a lot of work to do, and they do, but in terms of actual performance metrics, they're right about where they're expected to be at this point of the season. Still a little bit lower than that top 10 ranking, though. We like the human vote if we're Arkansas fans right now. It's funny, just looking at these different numbers. We actually had a subscriber on our message boards I thought had a really interesting viewpoint on how you can look at some of that stuff. And he said, look, either Arkansas is going to get exposed come SEC play when the competition heats up, or this is a team that, has the pieces and is likely going to improve and match the expectations with the performance as the season progresses. And I really think the latter is what we're talking about here, and he agreed. You take a look at Eric Musselman's coaching history throughout college. Hey, it's a minimum of 20 wins every season as a head coach. His teams are almost exclusively playing their best basketball at the end of the year. They're going to get better and improve. Still settling into their roles. Again, with a little bit more sense of urgency, I think now, because you've hit December, you're just 3.5 weeks or whatever away from the start of SEC play. So it's time to get rolling a little bit. Maybe slightly behind where they were last year, just in terms of overall comfort, chemistry, efficiency, and things like that. They're still doing a lot of very good things. I think if Arkansas was shooting three decently at this point, say 32% as a team, we'd probably feel a lot better about things. If Arkansas is making 3 or 4 more threes per game, that really opens things up. It looks a little bit less clunky. People are a little bit more excited, I think. So if they get that shored up, I think they're going to be in a pretty good spot. But, looking ahead, like I said earlier, keep stacking wins, because I could see a scenario this year where the top 5 to 6 teams in the SEC really stack up wins against the barbecue chicken of the league, right? The bottom feeders of the league, and then they really beat up on each other. So to me, I was talking about some of those projections, 11-7, 500, whatever. I could see this being a year where there's not that dominant team in the SEC that goes 16-2, right? Maybe 13-5 or 12-6 is enough to get you in that, top 4 range, double bye range for the SEC tournament. I think it could be. We'll see. All right. Looks like we got a few questions, comments today. Let's see what we got here. Josh Wilbank says they are good. I agree. Todd Drake says, are we still recruiting Anthony Black? The interesting thing about Anthony Black is I think, with for those who don't know, Anthony Black's 5-star borderline top 25 prospect in the 2022 class, Duncanville, Texas, 6'7" point guard, super talented player. that Arkansas was heavily on. He ran into a situation, an eligibility situation. You guys remember what happened with Nick Smith, where for a while there, we didn't know if he was going to be able to play for North Little Rock. He got it worked out. Different circumstances, but same situation with Anthony Black at Duncanville down there in Texas. And I think that really slowed down his recruitment. At the time, I think Oklahoma State was probably leading there. Gonzaga, Arkansas definitely in the mix. Anthony Black took an official visit to Arkansas. I'm pretty sure it was the weekend of the Georgia Southern football game. I think it was the week after Nick Smith. Had a really good time. By all accounts, really enjoyed it, was really impressed with everything that Arkansas had to offer. Then that eligibility stuff happened, and for about a month, I think they really put the recruiting stuff on the back burner to focus on that. And he's cleared now, so he's back in action, or I don't know what they call it. It's temporary. I guess at any point they could revoke his eligibility. And this is nothing of his doing, by the way. Really unfortunate circumstance, but I do think that slowed things down. It's interesting. I think Oklahoma State is the favorite at this point. Every time he's been in action, they've had the full staff out there. Arkansas hasn't been as heavy of a presence, but I don't think that means they've stopped recruiting him. Keeping in touch, talking to him. They're also recruiting some of his teammates. You think about 2023 guy like Ron Holland, 5-star forward. So Arkansas is going to be out there and be around. And I guess the thing that I would say is, the early signing period is past at this point. Arkansas signed off all 5 of their commitments. But that next opportunity is not going to come until the spring. There's a long time between now and then. So if I'm Arkansas, I continue to stay engaged, kick the tires, and see what happens. Because, maybe he's an Oklahoma State lean right now, but who knows what's going to happen with that situation, right? Like Mike Boynton as the coach, but they're dealing with that postseason ineligibility. Does that derail their season at all? Are they going to rally around it? You never know what's going to happen there. You never know what's going to happen in the transfer portal and things like that. So I think it would be wise, especially if you're recruiting one of his teammates, hey, stay involved with Anthony Black. I don't expect Arkansas to be the final landing spot there, but who's to say that couldn't change by March or April when it's decision time for him? I guess he could make a decision before that, but he can't sign until the late signing period. So not expecting it, but maybe that door is left cracked just a little bit because there's so much time between now and then. It's a good question. Isaac Riley says, Hog Hoops Live. Yes, sir. I enjoy this. I miss it. It's always weird to start it up. Like, you want to get the show started around the beginning of the season, but it's usually jam-packed with everything we got going on with football and then the Thanksgiving holiday. I don't know if I'd have a single person watching this or listening to it around Thanksgiving, maybe travel time. I didn't think about that for the podcast, but I was in Kansas City, so we had a couple of videos there, but it's fun. It's a good show. I enjoy doing it. Josh Wilbanks says they have not played anybody that could outscore them yet. That's true. It's very true. You think about some of the more difficult games they've had. I immediately think about those 2 neutral site games, right? So Kansas State and Cincinnati, but those are both defensive heavy, punch you in the mouth, physical type teams. But you're right. They're not the teams that are going to light up the scoreboard. I think probably the best offensive team Arkansas has faced so far, Northern Iowa, probably. The group that came in here and hit 17 threes and lost. Which, by the way, that win's looking a little bit better now that they went and beat number 16 St. Bonaventure. But that's true. So that they're going to be facing some more offensive talent at some point here. So they've got to be able to match it. And they do. Arkansas's got a lot of firepower offensively, but I do mean from the three-point line. It's one thing to be playing better three-point defense than Arkansas has, right? But when you're not making shots yourself, it's almost like every time the opponent makes a 3, it's amplified. It's like they hit 2 because you're not sure you can go down there and answer with one of your own. Right? And so like I said, I don't think Arkansas is going to suddenly become a team that shoots 40% from 3, and they're knocking down 12 to 15 a game. But, if they could get to that 32 to 33% range and give you 8 a game, enough to keep people honest, enough to spread the floor, enough to create a little bit of a spurt at times, And they'll get it, I think, especially from guys like Note, Likes, Jackson, if he starts getting more run. Then you're in a pretty good spot. Just be average as a shooting team because you excel at everything else. Then I think you're going to be okay. That's a good point, though. Ronnie says Jalen should be SEC Player of the Year. I assume you're talking about Jalen Williams. Listen, Jalen Williams is he's impressive. You know, I love the way he carries himself. It is. I sound maybe a lot older than I am, but it's refreshing to see somebody who just doesn't care about scoring and getting shots and getting the accolades. Like Musselman said last night, what he cares about is the Arkansas on the chest, whatever he's got to do to help the team win. What's my assignment? What do you need me to do? Let me go out there and execute it. And he does every single night. Sacrifices his body to take charges. You need a block shot, he'll get you one. Assist, fine. He'll go out there and lead the team. Oh, you need a dozen rebounds on a given night? Great. The only thing I would like to see from him, and I think if he does this, we're talking all SEC. And when I did before the season, I did a 5 bold predictions piece, and I projected Jalen Williams to be all SEC. He does have to score it a little bit more. It doesn't have to be crazy. But I think there's no reason with some of the shots that this team takes at times, why can't Jalen Williams get 5 to 7 shots guaranteed per game? Why not? Maybe 1 or 2 3-pointers, but throw it down there to him in the post. He's talented. He's skilled. And he knows when to take a shot and when to hit a cutter. He's smart enough, but I would like him to be a little bit more assertive to score. I thought he was in the second half against UCA last night. That could take his game to another level. He's such an important piece of this team. Really is. Andrew Sawyer says, what do you think about Davis at this point? Well, up until last night, I was concerned, to be perfectly honest, with Devo. Just looked uncomfortable and not like himself. You know, I remember, I guess it was after, I don't remember if it was the Penn game or the Cincinnati game. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But like I said earlier, I do those player grades after every game. And I think I graded him at a C-. You know, maybe it was a little harsh. I don't know. But a couple people commented, and that's cool. I love the feedback. Just saying, man, you think you're maybe a little harsh on Devo. And my point was, okay, watch that game that he played against Kansas State or Cincinnati or whoever it was, and then go watch a vintage Devo performance. Go watch any of those NCAA tournament games and tell me the difference. So if those games are his A game, then what is he giving right now? And I think in the second half against UCA was about as close to the Devo Davis A game as we've seen. And that's good. It's a tough transition. And listen, it's not like point guard is Greek to him. He played a ton of it in high school. But at the college level, it's a little bit different. You have some different responsibilities. And like I said earlier, I think he was just overthinking things a little bit. Not sure when he should shoot, when he should look to distribute. And what makes Devo such a special player is he almost scares the hell out of you when he's playing, because you never know what you're going to get. And it's something Musselman said over and over last year. Like, he's just going to get the ball and go, and more often than not, good things happen because he's not thinking. He's playing free. It's unique, his style of play. And I think we saw him getting back to that a little bit last night. I really hope it's a sign of things to come because, like I said, more good Devo means more good Arkansas. Coming into that game, he was averaging 6 points per game, 38% from the field. He'd only gotten to the free throw line 4 times all season. Led the team in turnovers. He's better than that. We all know that. It's just a matter of time before he breaks out. I think we saw a mini breakout last night. Hopefully he continues to build that momentum going forward, because as good as he is as a defender, if he can really develop into kind of a multifaceted lead guard who can score and distribute, especially with the other weapons that he's got around him, and Tony, Stanley Amude, Note, he could be a really, really good player. I like to see him having fun again. I think he's heading in the right direction. I would not have said that at halftime last night. Yeah, wow. Rob Hopper says, even Georgia looks good. You know, I thought they looked pitiful all year. any Georgia basketball I'd watch, but then they go out and beat Memphis last night. So it goes to show you that in the SEC, nothing is guaranteed. I know I said, hey, the schedule's backloaded and everything like that, and it is with the top tier teams, but it doesn't mean there's a night off just because you play Georgia or Missouri or Vanderbilt. Teams have players, so no guarantees for sure. Jeff Brown says, Woo Pig Suey from Heber Springs, bring on Kentucky. Bring them on. I'm ready for that game. It's been interesting so far because obviously Bud Walton Arena has been sold out, season sellout. We know. But the crowds have been so far. And that's not a knock on the fans. I get it. It's not the most exciting of matchups. And what I'll say about that is, and that's what people say. I'm like, man, if they were playing somebody a little bit better, I'd be more prone to show up at 8 o'clock on a Wednesday night or something. I'm not sure how many really good teams are that thrilled about the prospects of coming to Bud Walton Arena and getting beat, because it's almost a guaranteed loss when you come there, and the environment is what you want it to be. So, been a little bit light so far. I think that's to be expected, but as the schedule picks up, Bud Walton's going to really get rocking. And that Kentucky game, to go back to your point, oh my gosh, it's going to be crazy. I can't wait for that because I think both teams are going to be highly ranked at the time. Marquee matchup. We remember what happened last time Kentucky came to town with Coach Cal getting ejected. Could be a special day. Hog Tunes, what's up? Love what you do, by the way. Hello, Curtis. Thanks for the coverage. Who, in your opinion, is our best overall basketball player right now? Oh, man. That's a really loaded question. I would probably go right now with Au'Diese Toney. Listen, if we're talking offensively, wow, you really got me here. I'm going to go with Toney. And I'll give the, maybe the honorable mention to J.D. Notae, just because, when he's good, he's as good as anybody in the country on both ends of the floor. But he's been really streaky and kind of inconsistent offensively. I think Toney's been your most consistent guy on both ends of the floor. Just you can play him at any position almost. He's been knocking down his shots, really getting to the rim. I think he's the best cutter in college basketball. Incredible effort in the lane and on the glass, offensive and defensive boards. And then defensively, I think Toney's so important to this team because they're going to get to the point in SEC play where they're playing NBA draft pick wings every night that might be sized out of like Devo or JD's range in terms of matchups, who you want them to guard. And Toney, at 6'6 plus, he's 210 pounds, big, strong guy. What he can do defensively, inside and out, I think is huge for the team. And there's no better example than what he did against Cincinnati. Jeremiah Davenport's a guy who just torched Illinois for 20-plus points in a blowout over them. He's their leading scorer. And Au'Diese goes out there and shuts him down. Nothing. 0 points, minus 15 with him on the floor. That kind of lockdown defense to go along with what he's giving you offensively and on the glass, just complete player. I'll give it to Au'Diese for now. Justin Starn says, can you please explain the new game statistical platform they use during in-game that are provided to the benches on iPads that I've seen them talk about? Yeah, so I'm still trying to figure out some of that myself, but what I will say, it was really cool. In Kansas City on press row, they had those tablets available for us. And there's a software called Shot Tracker that they use. It's unreal. They'll put a little, like a chip in people's jerseys, and you can kind of track every bit of data, from shots to, where it came from. Was it running off of the screen? Was it pulling up off of the dribble? Was it, second side to third side rotation with ball? It's crazy. Any type of scenario you could imagine, they can come up with, and it's all in real time. And so I think that really gives coaching staffs the ability now to follow that a lot better, because I know when I was coaching in NAIA ball, we weren't really sure. We'd have a GA that was kind of, trying to do the shot chart and track it the best he could. During timeouts, we might get a printout of the stat sheet. But now you have this all right in front of you. And if you want to look at something specific, boom, 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 make a couple taps, and then you have the information that you need. If another player comes in off of the bench and you need to get a report on him, boom, 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 make a couple taps, swipe left, whatever you do, and you got all the information you need. So I think it just streamlines things quite a bit. But I'm not exactly sure what all they have access to with that. And so that's something I need to look into. I might ask that question at a press conference, actually. That's a really good thought. Jeff Brown says, is ESPN actually paying attention? I don't think so. Listen, I don't know. BPI, FPI, I don't know. I don't know what's going on there at all. Joshua Miller says we're playing tougher than our opponents in the second half of games. That's true. A little bit flat to start, it seems, at times. Muss has talked about that spurt ability where team will look dead in the water and all of a sudden they put a 15-2 run on somebody. We've seen a lot of that. Again, still waiting for that full 40 minutes. I thought they kind of sleptwalked through the first half last night, but you're right, a lot tougher and more intense in the second half. I guess you'd like that more than the alternative, right? If you're going to pick a half, be better in the second half. But hopefully we see a little bit more consistency moving forward. Aaron Anderson says the main issues I've seen so far is shot selection and errant passes. Yeah, they have run into some bad habits with shot selection. I think when the defense is really tightened up at times, they ran into really some stretches there was, it's just JD or Chris just really pounding the rock, dribble, and forcing up a shot. And that's not what they need. I do like the adjustments they made and kind of letting Jalen Williams facilitate things. And so what you'll see with that is they're kind of letting him, he's like a point forward. So instead of posting up a ton on the block, you'll see him flash up to the elbow. They'll hit him with the entry pass. And then he really operates from there. He can turn and maybe hit Tony as a cutter. He can have JD or Chris come off and hit him with the handoff, or he can skip it to the corner to a shooter. So they get him the ball in there to the elbow in those situations and really let him pick his poison. And that's when I think they've looked their best. And I think that's actually eliminated some of that poor shot selection. Could still get a little bit better there, but I think that's helped a lot. It's a good look for him. The errant passes, yeah, and Muss has made the baseball reference of, they're just trying to hit too many home runs and grand slams instead of taking a single or a double, right? And just really trying to thread the needle, get a little too fancy at times. We see it a lot in transition. This team forces a lot of turnovers. They'll get out on the break and, maybe they try to make a no look or, a give and go or whatever. It's just bobbled or not on the money, and they're turning it back over. I think a lot of that is just continuing to develop chemistry. But you're right. Does need to get a little bit better. Joey Moses says the guys are fine. Once they get it figured out, they'll be a tough out. The thing that bothers me more than anything is the fact that Muss has loose reins on the guards. Sometimes you put their butt on the bench for an extended amount of time to get their attention. Sure. The couple of things I'll say about that is, one, who are you going to put in at this point? KK has gotten some run. He got a lot of run last night. Looks very uncomfortable right now. And it's weird. It's kind of a balancing act. Like he probably needs to play to regain that confidence and get more comfortable. But at the same time, you got to be in a position where you can afford to put him in there and play through those mistakes. And so I think he's leaning on the proven guys a little bit more right now. And then I think he also realizes that, and he's been making some moves to that regard. So last night, if you were watching, it was interesting. The jump ball happens, and UCA kind of jumped the tip and stole it and went down for a layup. They missed the layup, but it just kind of set the tone for the whole half. And no sooner than that happened, Chris Likes goes up to the scorer's table. He checks in for JD Note. Well, as it turns out, something in the scouting report was that they like to try to jump that tip or I guess, jump in the passing lanes or the tipping lanes and try to steal that jump ball and take it coast to coast. They do it every game. And so a big emphasis for JD was, hey, you've got to seal off your guy on the jump ball to make sure that doesn't happen. He didn't do it. They almost got the layup. Muss yanked him. Right? Aldis Toney didn't like the energy or whatever that he was bringing in the first half. Yanked him. Set him most of the time in the rest of the first half and then gave him another shot in the second half. So I do think he's realizing that. And it's interesting with Muss because he's always been really big on he doesn't want guys looking over their shoulder thinking they're going to get taken out. He wants them to be able to play through some mistakes. And so what he said last night is, look, a missed shot, that's going to happen. But if we have a particular assignment and guys aren't doing what they're told or they're getting careless with the ball and turning it over, they got to come out. So I think he's realizing that and maybe just a little bit more accountability, kind of like you said. So as an interesting thought, I think he sees what you see. Let's see. John Dexter, looks like we got a couple more here. John Dexter says, I'd be okay with 13-5 in SEC play. That might be enough to win the SEC championship this season. If we lose that many conference games, we'll drop in the rankings, unfortunately. Yeah, 13-5 I think would be pretty good. I don't necessarily see this team losing many games at home, if any. Assuming that, if the crowd really shows up, as a season sellout for SEC play, you'd think they're going to have really good crowds every night. Man, Bud Walton's just a hard place to come in and beat Arkansas. I think you got to be 10 points better than Arkansas in Bud Walton Arena if you're going to beat them in front of a really good crowd. So, with that, then just go 500 or a little bit better on the road, and boom, you're there, 13-5. I know I make it sound like it's really easy to do. But yeah, I think 13-5 is reasonable. Would that drop them in the rankings? Maybe. I think it depends on how you finish the non-conference slate. Does this Oklahoma game become a really big one if you get the win? How's their season going to play out? West Virginia, how are they when you see them for the SEC Big 12 Challenge? And then where do those losses come from? If you avoid a head scratcher, as long as you don't pull a Memphis and lose to Georgia, then maybe you're in a pretty good spot. But, if the team goes through the season with 5 or 6, 7 losses, I mean, they're going to be top 20 and be in line for a really good seed at least come NCAA tournament time. Joey Moses says, put Davis on the low block. Yeah, put him down there. Hey, if he's getting, if he's the point guard, then a lot of times he'll be defended by the opposing point guard. If he's got a mismatch, as long as he is, as good as he is with that left hand little jump hook finish, why not? Tim Hudson says, Curtis, what's up, man? What's up? I feel like this team is a lot more gritty than last year's team, but isn't as smooth, if that makes sense. It makes perfect sense. They are gritty. After that tournament win in Kansas City, Musselman said that they're probably the toughest team in the country right now, and I agree. Those were 2 gritty wins. That's a great word for it. They're grinding it out. They're doing it defensively. It ain't pretty always, but they're getting the job done. And it's not as smooth right now as it was last year. Can it get there? I think so. A lot of it revolves around figuring out exactly what they're doing with the point guard position. Again, that second half of that UCA game, you started to see what you wanted to see from Devo. And then if you can get guys knocking down a few more shots, I think it just becomes a lot more aesthetically pleasing. Passing the eye test is what I keep going back to. Joey Moses says 23, 10, 0, 5, and 1. That is the lineup. Indeed it is. Said compare the body of Davis to the young Jordan at North Carolina, put him on the low block and challenge him, get the turnaround jumper going first. Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Like if you want Devo to do a lot of his work around the rim and the mid-range and things like that, we'll put him in positions to get the ball there. I thought he made a couple threes early in the season, hey, that's great. You love to see that from Devo. But then he started getting a little 3 happy for a couple games, taking some contested ones off the dribble, and you're like, okay. Like last year, dude, you took 1 dribble inside the 3-point line and pulled up. It's money, guaranteed. So let's see a little bit more of that, right? And then, I think that they can facilitate a lot of what you're talking about just with what they do with Jalen Williams. enter it in there to him at the elbow, let Devo maybe run off a handoff. And then you've got that ball in that 12 to 15 foot range. You can pull up, you can go to the rim, whatever you want to do. So I think there are a lot of different looks you can get off of that. They call it pinch post action with Jay Will, and he's got a great two-man game with all these guys. What he does with J.D. Note off of handoffs and in the pick and roll, those guys have great chemistry. And Jay Will has that with everybody. It's because he's such a great team player. Elder Reginald Allen says, relax. Hogs will put it together and be a great team. Still trying to get the chemistry together. Hogs going to be fine. I think you're all panicking way too soon. Who's panicking? No panic. I get it, though, from both sides. We all know they're going to put it together, but as games go by, you want to see them really start to hit their stride before the 29th of December, right? When SEC play starts. And they will. They're taking steps in the right direction. Again, like I said, you got to have the balancing act of wanting to see them improve while also understanding they're 7-0 and top 10 in the country, and they're one of 14 teams that hasn't taken a loss yet. So a lot of things to be really excited about, while also understanding they got to get better. Again, I think really the glaring issue right now is the three-point shots. 3 of 22, 3 of 17 twice, 4 of 18 in the last 4 games. If they're getting 5 or 6 makes even in those games, just a couple more a game, I really think it changes a lot of the perception that some people have that, they're struggling or they're not as good as last year or whatever people might think. They're going to be fine. And I think for the most part, people agree with that. Okay. It's been an hour. I think it's probably a pretty good stopping point then for the day. It's a big weekend coming up for Arkansas athletics. Razorbacks take on Little Rock Saturday again, 3:00. That game's on SEC Network. Hey, we'll find out where the football team's going bowling. I think we'll know about that by the end of the weekend. Our next episode of Hog Hoops Live is probably going to come the day after the Charlotte game. So we'll be back Wednesday. We'll talk about that. We'll preview the Oklahoma game. And then I'll come to you with a live reaction video. I'm going to go to Tulsa and check out that Oklahoma game. So plenty to look forward to if you like following along. I sure do appreciate it. The interaction, answering the questions, things like that. Those are my favorite parts of doing this. So certainly appreciate it. Again, a last reminder, if you get a chance, go hop on the YouTube page for Hog Hoops Live. Hit the subscribe button. Follow us on HawgSports, anywhere you get your podcasts. Remember, you can find that the exact same spot that you find HawgSports Live with Trey. And I think that about wraps it up. Appreciate you guys for listening, and we'll see you next time on Hog Hoops Live.